Hello, FewCandy here, and welcome back to the planetzoo Beginner's Guide series, or the Zoob's Guide as some might say. And today we are doing a complete overview on everything education related. So we'll be looking at the purpose of education in general, speakers, education boards, what their impact is on donations, guest happiness and spending and things like that in the zoo. Touching very briefly on animal talks, although we have already covered that in this series. If you want to see that video, it will be linked in the top right now. But then most importantly, coming on to something we haven't touched on yet, which is educational walking tours. So yeah, lots to cover in this episode, and we'll also be doing another food and drink area as well, so there will be some building, not just all talking. But yeah, here we go, let's dive right in. So I've mentioned this before, but education is absolutely intrinsically linked to the amount of donations you get into your zoo. If you look at your finances, so let's come into the finance screen, you can see here, I mean, I've got a lot of expenses, we're not making very much money anymore. But in terms of income, donations, by far the largest. So that is something really massively to bear in mind, is you want people to donate. Now where you put donation bins is really important. So you can see here, if you click on one, you can see how much money it has got, the average donation as well coming in. And these do vary. So we've got £19 over here, or £19 over here. In fact, it's pretty consistent across this whole habitat. Maybe slightly less so if we go to this corner. Yeah, £16 over here. So you've got to wonder, is education any different? And it is to a point. So we've got our talk over this area, which will be boosting their donations. We have screens you can see hidden under the ground all around here, which will do their work and do their effect. But actually on this habitat, we don't have any educational speakers. So coming into this heat map is really, really valuable, so you can see where that coverage is. Because the educational speakers actually add a lot to education in general. If you come into the education menu here, you can see the proportion of like influence per item type essentially. Educational speakers has the largest effect of all. So putting in those speakers combined with your education boards is really super duper important. So if we come into facilities, into media devices and education, we can start placing some speakers around our American bison habitat over here. So I think let's just check. We've got a line to surface on, so we could put it essentially, let's put it on the floor here and then we can hide it away. If we then click on it, we'll assign it obviously to the American bison, and then we can change the range of it as well. So we could have this whole speaker covering most of this viewing platform here. We want to make sure it's not overlapping with anything like the llama speaker over this side, because if you get that red kind of overlap area, it will annoy guests. So make sure that you haven't got that on. But that is pretty decent coverage from there. We can then copy this, and we could also potentially add one around this side as well for a little bit of extra coverage. So again, let's put that onto the floor. We click on it, let's just check the radius. So you can see here the red overlapping area. We don't want that because guests will be horrendously confused and annoyed by it. So let's just make this a tiny bit smaller so it's got slightly less coverage. This red area is actually inside the sandcat habitat, so guests can't go there. So I'm not really too super worried about that. So I think we'll kind of leave that like so. And then of course, if we click on the speaker, they kind of look a little bit ugly. So we can go ahead and just hide it underground here, and it will still have exactly the same effect as if it is showing. So yeah, that's our bison habitat, much better covered. We can come back into the heat map. You can see that right here. Yeah, not too bad at all. But the key thing is with donation bins is put them where guests are educated, but also where they stop to look at the animals. So if I use an example over here, we'll come through to our seal walkover. A lot of these donation bins have virtually no money, in fact literally zero. Never ever had a donation into that bin there. We've got a few over here. This is the main area where people tend to hang around. A little bit on this one as well. But you can see here the guests are standing all around this area. No one really comes in here and stands in this part to view the animals. So these donation boxes are actually pretty wasted. But as well, the other thing is here, when we look at education, we've only got our speakers along this path. We haven't actually got any education boards at all. So we want to mix it up. We want to kind of maximise this, and this will help improve education ratings for our seals. So again, like if you're on a walkway like this, these education boards are not going to go. They're going to look pretty awful. And I've also got them at the entrance and the exit to the seal habitat, so it's not really that much of a problem in real world zoos to not have it along our path. So yeah, we can just go ahead and hide that underneath our walkway surface. So we definitely want them all around this area where guests are standing and waiting and viewing the animals, to make sure that they're really nicely educated here, and then hopefully they'll drop some more donations into our boxes. Again, I'm just hiding it in the path, and these paths are quite nice and thick, so you can see from underneath. It's not visible under this huge concrete barrier, so not a problem from that perspective. So that gives us much better coverage along here. I think because there's quite a few people standing in this area, we could, yeah, see that one's got, I swear that had some money in it a second ago actually. I don't think that was quite zero, but maybe it was. But yeah, we could do with potentially having another speaker here, because we do have guests standing in this area looking at the animals, so I feel like that would probably be beneficial. So these people here now will hopefully be getting happier, will be spending more money. Hopefully we'll see that come through in the donations. Let's actually, can we see if they donate now when they leave this area? No, maybe it's slightly too far back, so we could try moving it over to here and see if we get any more donations in. Okay, so we have just had 2 loads of money, or 3 loads of money in fact, just thrown at our little bin, so that's good. So actually just moving it slightly further up the path towards where the guests are actually standing, closer to where they're actually viewing the animals, with better education and more education around, there you go, it's all ranking up now, is going to bring you in more donations. So that's really what you want to do when you set up your zoo, particularly in franchise mode when money is super important. Get your donation bins in the right locations and do things like this. Go round, check how much they're making. If you don't feel like they're making enough or they're making zero, move them. Put in more education and you'll soon find that money ramping up. So another thing I get asked quite a lot in terms of education is, what is the advanced research? What does it actually do? We go into our vet research screen here. You can see we have actually got a vet doing advanced research on our black and white ruffed lemurs. Now you'll notice all animals are fully researched, and this is really important. If we just click on one, you can see here, when you come in and you do these research levels, part of this is an education bonus. So you really, really want to get those, and the last one always comes on the last level as well, because that again is super important actually from a money perspective. If your guests are educated, they're going to be happier, they're going to stay longer in your zoo, and they're going to spend more. So as well as putting donation bins in the right place, it really adds to your guests' happiness overall. So really important that you do the animal research to get to that. Now in terms of the advanced research, yeah, this is a common question. It is not something that you get a level in. So if we click on the lemurs here, you can see we've got this all bubbling away. We're doing our advanced research. This is never ending. So it doesn't like suddenly stop or it goes, yes, your advanced research is complete. That doesn't happen. It is simply to give an education boost to that animal. There is speculation over whether it increases welfare, increases their chance to successfully breed and breed better babies as well, so more highly rated babies. I kind of haven't really found any proof from Frontier directly that that is indeed the case, but the official kind of wiki says it gives a boost to guest education for that particular species. And if you come into the education menu here, you can see our vets doing advanced research. So essentially it takes one vet out of the field, so they're not going to be looking after animals, which is a bit problematic, so you want to make sure that you've got enough vets to support doing advanced research. But it is supposedly giving a boost to overall education. It's not a huge amount, so like frankly, if you're struggling for money and you're in a small zoo, I probably wouldn't bother doing that. Is really my answer. Again, I don't know what the effect is on breeding, if it might help there. If you've got bucket loads of money and loads of vets, then by all means do it. If someone wants to experiment and tell me otherwise, let me know in the comments below. But yeah, the advanced research bonus doesn't add really that much. We've got a guest education rating of 4.5 stars, which I feel like is pretty good overall. So I'm kind of happy with that. Now, like I mentioned, having some educators roaming is actually really helpful as well, because they do roaming talks. So if we come into my staff menu, you can see here, go down to educators, who I've missed. Here they are. I have got 3 of them. 2 of them are on the talks work zone, so the education entrance talks, although it's covering our entire zoo at the moment. They are both doing animal talks, and this one has no work zone. Annoyingly, they're in the staff room resting. But yeah, if they're not on a talk work zone and they don't have kind of anything assigned to them, then they'll just do roaming talks. So you can come in here and you can see this: conduct guided tours, present roaming talks, present animal talks. So we could just leave this educator. We haven't got any tours anyway. We haven't got any animal, well, we don't have a need for animal talks because we've already got 2 educators on that. So we're just going to leave them to do roaming talks and assign them to specifically that task. So yeah, always a good idea to have an extra educator or 2 that can just roam around your zoo and do some impromptu talks, which are kind of fun to watch and also increase guests' happiness as well. Now, in terms of the talks, you'll see here we've got 5 talks in the zoo so far. Again, I'm not going to talk about how to set those up. That is in a previous video in this series. But now that we've got 5 in the zoo, let's just talk about scheduling a little bit. So an educator will turn up the month prior to a talk in order to start facilitating it. So you really want to make sure you've got at least 2 months pretty much between your talks to give them time to get between the 2 venues. And of course as well, they also need time to rest. So within my talk work zone, I've got every single staff building selected within that so that they can pop into any staff room that is nearest to wherever they are. We've got 2 educators sharing the load of 5 talks per year, and all of these talks are spaced out by a couple of months. There's always time to walk between them or to rest if needed, and that seems to work pretty efficiently. Conservation boards, just to touch on that as well, do kind of add some education. We've got quite a few actually which are not educating anyone. They're just in a bit of sort of random locations, like this one right on the edge of our monkey island habitat, our primate island over here. No one's really walking past that, particularly because there's nothing in the zoo this way. We've got a lot of detailing to do around this area. I'm going to ignore that tunnel there. Oh. But yeah, this one's not really reaching any. We've got a couple more dotted around the paths in random places that aren't reaching anyone. So you kind of think about the locations for those, although they don't like cost very much, and I quite like them as decoration a lot of the time, so that's why I'll leave them in. In terms of what our most popular ones are, we'll go to this one, which is in the station. So pretty much all guests are walking past this to come into our train queue over here. So this is a really high traffic area to help reach guests and get them educated. So things like this is a very good location because you're going to get a lot of guests passing through to get onto the queue here. So again, if you really want to maximise education, think about the placement of those and make sure they're in high traffic areas. It doesn't have to be near relevant habitats or anything like that. It can be anywhere in your zoo. As long as enough guests are walking pretty close to the screen, they'll receive the education boost from it. Okay, so let's come on to the really new and interesting part of today's episode, which is the educational tours. So in facilities, again, media devices and education, under education, we have this tour point. Now, tour setup can seem a little bit confusing at first, but it is pretty simple. Essentially what you want to do is add these tour stops in at every habitat that you want to include along the way, along the tour. But you also need to factor in rest stops and also a start and end point as well. So you do need one of these tour points at the start of the tour and also at the end. Now, it is generally quite helpful to have them relatively close to the zoo entrance because I believe they buy the tour tickets as they come in through the entrance gates. So here we're going to start off by our food and drinks court over here, and the other thing I like to do with tours is to also position them pretty close to rest facilities in terms of the start of the tour, because then hopefully guests will have used the toilet, got their food and drink before they start the tour. Because the worst thing is when you have a tour is that the guests' happiness is really low, and then they don't essentially enjoy the tour as much because they need the toilet or they need a drink the whole time. So that's why we also want to incorporate rest stops to make sure they've got the whatever facilities that they need. So with rest stops, you do want to make sure there is a toilet, there is food, there is drink, and there is merchandise as well, which is something I haven't done enough of in this zoo. So we're going to be coming on to that But yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to place down the tour points and then I can show you how to set it up. So we're going to start the tour over here, just at the side, right outside our food and drinks area, like so. And then we're going to come on up over to here and have a tour stop in the penguin habitat. So we're just going to put it over at the side over here. We've obviously got the talk in the middle, so we kind of don't want to interrupt that too much. So we'll add it over here. And then we're going to come around and do the American bison. So this is going to be our second habitat over here. And I think I'm actually just going to drop the tour in. This is quite a narrow path, which can be problematic. We're going to drop the tour in over at this side here with the mud pool in front of them. Hopefully they'll get some action on the tour that side. You do want to make sure that these points are in fairly prominent positions for each animal. So that's quite an important aspect as well. And then with the sand cats, again, we've got this problem that our path doesn't really work. So I think what we're going to do is place the tour point just outside of the habitat over this side. In fact, we'll do it right in the centre. They're quite ugly little boards, and again, like education ones, you can kind of hide them within scenery if you want to. If you don't want to see them, that's not a problem. Now, because we've done 3 habitats there, the guests need a break. I don't really like to go more than 2 or 3 habitats without a rest stop. And if it is an even longer walk between your habitats, you want to make sure that you've got more frequent rest stops. If they're all really close by, then that's not too much of a problem. So with this tour point, we're going to add this on this corner here, and this is going to be a rest stop because just after we've set this up, we are going to come in and add in a food and drinks area over here with toilets and all of the facilities needed to handle that. So that'll be our first rest stop. Then we're going to come round and we're going to do the seals. So I think because this seems to be the popular end, we're going to go over here and we'll have the tour stop right there. And then we're going to fly on into the Asian otter habitat. Oh, we've got an escaped animal. Marvellous. I'll go and check that out in a second. Because you can come in to walk through habitats here. Someone has dropped litter. That is shameful. My goodness. I don't like that. Our Asian otters won't like that either. But yeah, you can come in to walk through habitats, so that obviously can help with the engagement of the tour. You need people to be able to see the animals. So let's drop a tour point right here so that they've got a great view out over this little plateau area where the otters are fed. We've got one swimming in the water there. Marvellous. And then because that is a fairly long walk, and we do also have this rest stop here, we're then going to add this in as a rest point. So I'm just going to add this over at the side here, which will be a rest stop for that area. And now the other thing is, I have changed up. I removed one of our food outlets here and added in a Looney Balloons, just so that we've got merchandise facilities over here. Otherwise, guests on the tour might leave this rest stop area and travel across the zoo to go and find some merchandise before they come back, and then the entire tour is stood there waiting for them. So these tours can literally take years to get around the zoo. It's kind of funny. But that is a potential way to try and stop them from doing that by having merchandise right in this area. The other thing I forgot to mention as well actually is you also need a staff room so that the educator doing the tour can also rest over the same time that the guests are getting their food and drink and using the loo. So down here I have actually added in a staff room that wasn't here before behind this little door here. Ooh, we can go in there you go. So there is now a hidden staff room in here, which is why we keep getting the warnings of negative impact on guests, because they can reach it from the top up here, which isn't ideal, but is what it is. Okay, so then we're going to carry on the tour and we're going to come around here to the raccoons and skunks. We'll add in a tour point just here. Then we're going to walk back around this way over to the mandrills. Now we have our talk over that side, so we're not really going to be interrupting them too much. So we'll add in a tour point just about here. And then we're going to finish off the tour actually, because this is going to be our 8th habitat. Yes, 8th habitat in our tour. We're going to finish it off over here by the black and white rough lemurs. And I'm actually going to put it over this side because we do have our animal talk here. So I don't want too many guests crowding around that area. So yeah, with our 8th habitat, so that's kind of 2 or 3 habitats in between each rest stop. We're then going to bring them back here, and I'm actually going to add 2 points in here. So we're going to firstly have one here, which will be the rest, and then we're going to end the tour on this corner over here. So how do we set it up? Let's click on one of the tour points, and we need to open Tour Manager here. We can go tour 1, or you can set up a new tour if you want, so you can have multiple tours around your zoo, and what I would recommend doing is keeping them shorter rather than longer. So have a tour around your African area or your Indian area, whatever it might be, and then another tour around your Asian area, etc. Or however you've laid out your zoo, try and divide it up into smaller sections. They also don't have to end and finish at the same point. That's just what I've decided to do here because we have the rest facilities over in this point. So we've got tour 1. Let's call this the entrance tour because it is going to be the tour that is closest to our entrance. From here we can then select the tour start. So we'll add that in here. We'll click confirm, select points, and then we want to go round and find all of our points. So we've got the start over here. We know that after the start we're going to the American bison habitat. So that's our point, our next point here. And you can name these to help out if you want to. In fact, no, we're not going to the American bison habitat. We're actually going to the African penguins first. I'd forgotten about that. Okay, so we click on this. This is tour point 3, so I can move this up the rank like so. And again, it would be really helpful if I actually named those points, which I will do in just a second. There we go. So that's the African penguins. That's the American bisons. Then we're coming on to the sand cats, which will be this point here. Then we're going to rest, and I'll show you how to set that up in a second. And then we're coming on to the seals, the Asian otters, up to this rest point, round to the raccoons and skunks, onto the mandrills, black and white rough lemurs, and then finishing up with a rest stop to make sure our guests are ending their journey happy. That's really what we want. We want good reviews, and better reviews on our tours will mean more people participating. And then this is going to be the end. So let's click confirm here, select end tour point, and that'll be this one. We'll click confirm. And now just before we complete tour point setup, what I do want to do is come through on these. If you click on this, you can see activity type animal talk. No, we want an intermission at this point here. If you click on the start point, you can see that's tour start. This is tour end, educator ends tour, educator starts the tour there and meets the guests. But now we come through and we'll need to assign all of these. So we'll go to the African penguin habitat, we'll do animal talk, we'll assign the content to it, and of course, exactly like education, it'll be closest animal to that point. And then we just need to go around and do this on all of them. So again, this will be animal talk, American bisons. This one will be our sand cat talk. Then we're going to have an intermission here. And we of course need to build our rest stop for that. Otherwise guests are going to be walking miles, which is why I've paused the game here. Animal talk, we'll do grey seals. Then we've got our Asian small clawed otters. Then we've got our second intermission point. And then here we're going to have to choose between raccoons and skunks. We'll do raccoons. Then we've got our mandrills. And this is quite repetitive. I could have set these up as I put them down. May have been easier instead of wandering around the zoo several times, but here we go. So here, if we click on to the tour start again, we can go to open tour manager, complete tour point setup. We've done that because we've now assigned them all to different animals or to an admission. So that is now ticked. And then we can select our tour fee. So ticket price including the fee is going to be $43 because at the moment I think that's what we've got our zoo set up to. Yeah, it's $43. So let's make the tour an extra, we'll go for £5 and we'll see how we do. We can also change the tour colour here. So you can change all of the boards in the tour to a different colour. So I think we'll go for green here so it's not the default purple. But yeah, you can change the look of those signs all at once by changing that here. And there we go, that's pretty much it. We just need to assign some educators to this tour. So let's come into staff. We're going to actually hire 2 more educators for this. I'm going to do 3 and I'm going to assign 2 of them. And I'm going to leave this guy on roaming. So we've got 2 educators roaming, 2 doing talks and 2 doing tours is what I'm thinking here. So we just click play, let them hit the ground. Let's grab 2 of those and we're going to do conduct guided tours for you and also for you. So that's going to be your only job. And so now what we also want to do is set up a staff work zone for this. So we're going to go new work zone. We're going to click all of the tour points. Really annoyingly. There we go, I've selected all of the tour points. I've also got the 3 staff rooms in it. We're going to rename this to the entrance tour. Then if we press escape on that, we can now come back into our staff here. Dolores Cell is the tours. So I'm assuming Demetrius is also the entrance tour. Yes, exactly. So there we go. So we've got those set up on the talks, those two set up on the tours, and these two roaming. One of them doing lots of different jobs and one of them just doing the roaming talks. So if we come back into Tour Manager now, you can see there's still no one assigned to the tour. That's because it essentially takes 3 months for the tour to actually start. So we've got 3 months to build our food and drinks area, which we're going to do in just a second. But don't worry if it says 0 assigned to it at the moment. They will become assigned to it as the tour starts. So you will see that happen. It will just take a moment because guests have to come in and actually buy tour tickets, essentially. So that's what is happening there. So I'm going to come back to the tour at the end of this video and we can check how it's doing, make sure we've got educators on it, see what the guests think of it and that sort of thing. But let's, for now, just start talking about this food and drinks area that we're going to have over here. Now, I do need a toilet in here, so I'm actually going to clear out a lot of these little bushes that we have in here, clear some space for a toilet building. And because we've kind of used a lot of the same theming without the zoo, I'm actually going to go ahead and grab one of the existing toilet blocks that we've already built. So like, don't be afraid to do this. Don't feel like you need to rebuild every single building, particularly something as uninteresting as a toilet. So we're going to come in and copy this building. I'm going to duplicate it. I know that there's a couple of bits missing on it, which is kind of annoying, but we'll come back to that and we can refresh it, add the floors back in and that sort of thing, because I think they are pretty sure that they are missing. But everything else is in here and it's going to save us a lot of time over rebuilding a toilet block of essentially the same theme. So yeah, I'm going to add this in on this little corner over here. Like that kind of looks okay to me. Let's see if we can actually get a path in here, which we can. Let's make sure this is nice and skinny. Okay, and that actually lines up pretty well. So that is our toilet connected in. We'll come back and add in the flooring, the little bits of detail around it, and also the archway over here in just a second. But that's the toilet sorted. For food and drink, I'm going to go ahead and actually build out a small little kind of shack area on this side using, if we come into guest facilities, some of these counters here. Now I've gone over building techniques quite a lot in this, so I won't talk through this in detail in this video. But one thing to just say very quickly about drinks is the type of drink that you put into your zoo does actually matter quite a lot. So water is always going to keep people much more hydrated and fill their thirst need much better than things like milkshakes or sodas or slushies, even if you've got hot weather in your zoo. If you're in a cooler climate like tundra or taiga, Street Fox coffee is what you want to keep guests warm, and that will keep them happier and get rid of their thirst needs a little bit quicker. But Pip Shot water is always the safe bet. So key little thing to note, actually, it does matter what food and drink you actually use in a lot of cases. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and add in a little water stool like that. Now we're going to build our own custom buildings around this. We're also going to add in some food. I think we might let's go for Bernie's Bakes, because I don't think we've actually put that into the zoo yet. So we're going to tier it back just a little bit like that. And of course we also want merchandise to keep these tour people happy, which is kind of annoying, I won't lie. So let's do a Hats Fantastic as well in here. Again, all kind of tiered like this, which will hopefully give us quite a little interesting shack or building shape here, and also keep some of those queues off the main path this side. In addition to this, I would actually also like to incorporate some vending machines, because they can be useful if you start getting big queues, and we don't have any food or drink for quite a walk actually in this area, so I think this is pretty needed here. They can help to reduce some of the queues that you get around some of the main food counters. So let's just go ahead. What should we have? Let's have a pizza pen vending machine in here, and then we're also going to have, I think we might have a Pip Shot again. Water, juice, keep them happy that way. And then we'll build a building all around those little counters in just a second. But before we do that, I do want to talk about the shelters here. So we're going to put in some benches as well, because with the tour rest stops you do need benches and somewhere for them to actually sit down and rest, in addition to having all of these other facilities that we've got here. And of course the staff room is the other thing. We do have a staff room around the back of the bat cave, so I'm hoping that that's close enough that will keep them happy, and that's the one that I've actually put into the work zone as well. But yeah, what I do want here is some nice open picnic benches on a bit of a kind of rougher, dirty, more natural ground over here, but with some shelters around it. So what I am going to use for this is the sail, which comes from the Oceania pack. But the best way to get this in is to use the mud column, which I think I've talked about before, perhaps not in this series, but this is the most useful feature for creating circular style buildings because it sits on the centre of a grid point, which is really important. This is a base game item as well, so you don't need any DLC for this. If you do want to get this sail that I'm about to put in here now, this is part of the Oceania pack. Please do check out my Instant Gaming link in the description below for great discounts on all of the DLCs if you're missing any. So yeah, we're going to use this as a shelter essentially around this mud column. So what I do want to do is I want to turn on position snap for this, because what we can do, you can see it will snap right into the centre of our mud column nice and easily. Before we press click on it, let's press X on our keyboard to go into advanced move though. I'm going to press X again to go into rotate here, and I am going to turn on angle snap for this because we're going to put it down to horizontal like so, and then just down one notch more to give us a nice kind of slopey roof, which will go onto our building. Now it doesn't matter that you can't see the top of this, don't worry about that. We're going to get rid of these mud columns and it's not going to look like that. So we're just going to click tick like that for now. Going to exit our group, and then we'll have all of this selected automatically. If you have clicked away from it, you can obviously click on it again and you'll have the group selected like this. From this point, we can then do Control X on the keyboard or duplicate and advanced move. Making sure we've got angle snap on. We want to rotate this a full 180 degrees so it's round the other side. Then we'll press tick there and then we'll escape. So then what we can do is if we select one of these groups and then double click on the mud column, I'm actually going to delete it out. So we've only got one mud column in the middle because we had duplicated it. So now if we click on this group, which has the mud column, hold Control on our keyboard and also click on the other sail, we can then merge this scenery into a group because it's no longer got that mud column, which is refined to a grid. We obviously can't merge it if we've got two grid items in each of the separate groups. So we'll merge it into one. So it's like that. And then we can do a duplicate and advanced move. Once again, Control X on your keyboard. We'll turn off angle snap for this, go into rotation, and then we're just going to very simply rotate it round. Okay, so we've got some of our groups that we do want to move up just a little bit, so we can just go through, select each group and adjust them round to fill in some of those gaps so it doesn't look too odd. So yeah, something like that will be absolutely okay. And then what we can do is come in and remove all but one of these mud pillars, so it takes some like double clicking in the middle to find all of these pillars, select the group and then select the pillar. Okay, that was the last one, so let's undo that. I'm leaving this one in because I find that this is the easiest way to do this. Yes, I'm going to use this East Asian column small for this. And again, because we've got position snap on, it will snap really nicely right into the centre of our mud pillar somewhere. There we go, like that. And then what we can do is go ahead, remove the mud pillar, then we can press X on the East Asian pillar and adjust this into place. So yeah, like that. I'm going to leave some of the little sticks sticking out the top because I think that's kind of cute. But there we go. And then because we have got rid of the pillar, which was originally sitting on the grid, what we can do is select all of these pieces. We go into the multi-select tool like that, and then we should be able to merge it. And then we can copy it. I'm going to rotate it a little bit because we're going to have three of these and I want them to not all look exactly the same sort of orientation. So we'll copy it like that and have three kind of sail covers covering our little area here. If we then actually hold shift and select all of them, what we can do is then make them a little bit lower to the ground. In fact, I quite like that that one's slightly higher. Yeah, in fact, let's make this one a little bit lower and we can have a bit of a variation in height as you come through the complex. I don't mind that. And then each of these are in a group, so if you want to advance move one of them in particular, you can very easily do that, so it's nice and handy from that perspective. And then what we're going to do is put in as much path as we possibly can to fill this space underneath, add our picnic benches in, and that will give us a nice shady little picnic area. So what I will do now is jump into a little time lapse just to finish that off using the same building techniques that we've already covered in the series. As always, if you do have any questions or topics you want covered, let me know in the description below. I'm doing this education episode because that was a request of one viewer, and so that is a shout out to that so-called anime chick. Thank you for requesting this. And here is the education episode. So yeah, I'll be back in just a moment and we'll take a look at our tour and see how it's doing. Okay, so our tour is in action. You can see here the tour guide walking around with the little sign, and we have 5 people on the tour, including actually myself, my own avatar, and also Karina. Shout out to Karina as well, have joined the tour here. But you can see in terms of the guests as well, we've just hit this rest point that we've just added in here, but they haven't managed to fulfill all of their needs. It seems like they do 2 or 3 of what they need, and that's about it. So I haven't gone to the toilet, for example. Karina didn't manage to get any food, but I did see her go for a drink and use the toilet. We've got this girl here, yeah, maybe a little bit of energy, probably didn't get any food. I mean, he's got his bottle of water there, so hopefully his thirst. Actually, he's doing pretty well. And then we've got this lady at the back here, obviously didn't manage to get any food. So I'm going to kind of track and see how they do as we go along the tour. But there it is. A nice small little tour to start us off. And actually some of them were saying that it was an absolute bargain, so maybe we do need to increase that price from $5 upwards, I would say. But I'm quite keen to get a bit of a reputation rating before we do that. But you can see here what happens when you reach the animal talk points throughout the tour. The educator gets her mic out, and she did visit the staff room as well, I would add, during the little rest stop intermission. And yeah, then she starts the talk, giving an animal talk, and everyone seems happy. What kind of monster just dumps their litter? That sounds like me, to be honest. But everyone seems, yeah, they seem to be okay. It's difficult to really tell. I wish I had more work to do. I mean, you're literally walking around doing a tour. I can't really give you any much more work than that, but there we go. There are too many people watching me work, but you don't have enough work to do. Very conflicting there for Dolores. But yeah, they just stop and give their talks, and then they keep on going. When they get to the rest stop, the educator kind of ushers them all off to go and get whatever they need. She goes off to the staff room, they go round and use the toilet, get a drink, etc. Then they all group back up and carry on the tour. It's kind of a funny concept. We'll leave them for a minute and see if we get a reputation rating later on, but just coming back to what I added in here. I went to a place in the UK called Monkey World, which is like a primate and ape rescue centre. Actually last week when I was on holiday, and they had a little bit of an eating area like this that's very much just a few covers and a few random picnic benches packed in and dotted around in different angles. So that's what I was sort of using for inspiration here. Obviously we've got the rail track right there, so a bit of safety fencing I think is needed in this case. Just used a little bit of buffalo grass and some of the longer grass, I forget what this one's called, the big blue stem grass, to decorate up along the barrier there to make it feel a little bit more natural and overgrown, which I really like. Touches of the buffalo grass throughout, so it's kind of like this area's really been worn down by people walking on it, as opposed to kind of just being actual dirt ground. Of course, a few bins dotted around, filled in this corner where we didn't have any path. I couldn't put the path here, with some nice foliage. Same with this corner. But yeah, that was about it. And then the little food stalls. We just did this really, really basic. Oh, there's people walking down there. We might have to cover up the staff path this end. But yeah, just did a really basic little food hut arrangement here. They're really tiny, so it's kind of like, it's not meant to be like the main food court, but a little place you could grab something on your way around the zoo. But yeah, I quite like it. The Pip Shop water is very popular, so this queue is getting quite big, but it hasn't really spilled out into the main path yet, which I think is a good thing. And obviously having the vending machine over here is going to help divert some of the traffic away from this counter as well. So that's always helpful. But yeah, nice basic little structure, and I did manage to actually hide a staff room right around the back here where these people are walking to try and get a view of the seals. This is definitely not a seal viewing area. We'll put in some staff path to stop them from coming down here at the other end. Yeah, basic little staff room which looks awful, but it's hopefully kind of hidden away around the back. And we got away with this because actually the negative area around the staff building is really tiny. So it doesn't come anywhere near the path. It's not interfering with guests, of course, except for if they actually walk down that path. But even then it's not that bad. So yeah, we managed to sneak one in there so that the educator and the staff working in these shops have got really nice, easy access to a staff room. I'm very, very keen to see if we do have a rating at all for this yet. We can view the tour rating in here, and it is half a star. That's awful. In fact, actually, we've got a tour starting at the moment, I think, with a lot more people waiting. So that just goes to show if you wait a little bit. you're going to have more people here. And this one I'm assuming is going to be Demetrius, because Dolores must still be on the tour. He's actually at the Sandcats already. So we've already got people waiting for the next tour. That's interesting. And where's Dolores? She's coming onto the rest stop now, having been in the Otters. I'm going to let it run a tiny bit longer, let a few tours actually complete, and then we'll check back on the rating. Okay, so the first tour we've got going around is actually coming to a finish here. Wow, I learned so much from Dolores Cell's tour. Okay, good. Entrance tour was very educational tour. That's good to hear. I think she's saying bye-bye to the such a great tour. Okay, I feel like we must get some pretty good ratings to this. It was awesome. Oh, well, that's very positive indeed. Dolores Cell's enthusiasm is infectious. Best tour guide ever. Love it. Okay, so if we go back here, open tour manager, view tour rating. Okay, it's 4 stars. I'm kind of pleased with that. I'm disappointed scenery isn't better because I put a lot of effort into that. But there we go. Tour layout is okay, not amazing. Probably work on improving that next time. Educator skill and personality. Obviously we need to train our educators, so the more trained they are, then that will come across a bit better. They should be pretty well rested because there's enough resting points within it. She's now come back to here, so actually what's her energy is alright and she's pretty happy. She did say I can't work anymore, I need to rest, so well, there we go. I have now got 3 tour guides on the actual tour to keep this flowing really nicely, but yeah, there's a lot more people going out on the tours now, much busier. It seems to be alright. Let's see if we can click on one person actually on the tour following tour guide. The tickets for entrance tour were really cheap, so I've already put up the price to $10. We could go further. Should we go to 12? We'll see how that does. But there we go. That is that's tours, and I think that's mildly successful with a 4-star rating for our first tour that we've put in. So yeah, pleased with that, and hopefully that has taught you a little thing or two about education. So for today, that is going to be it. But if you have enjoyed the episode, likes, comments and shares are really greatly appreciated. And join me next time where we'll be looking at restaurants for the first time and also designing a plaza, which I'm super excited to get onto at the top of our zoo. But that's all from me for now. So while you wait for new content, check out one of the videos on screen. But thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you again next time. Bye bye.